The days had started blending together. I honestly couldn't have told you whether it was Tuesday or Saturday, and during COVID, I'm sure nobody else really could either. What it felt like freedom started to no longer feel freeing. I wasn't resting anymore. I was drifting. And I began asking myself a question. Is this really how I want to live my life?
What's going on, pursuers? Welcome to The Pursuit of Calling, the podcast that provides you with the strategies and tools needed to successfully discover and pursue your calling. Whether it's through inspiring stories, thought-provoking interviews, or quick, insightful episodes on personal growth and development, we've got you covered. I'm your host, Thomas Carney. Enjoy the episode.
Do you remember COVID? The roads were empty, businesses were closing. Nobody seemed to know what next week, let alone next year, was going to look like. I was personally furloughed from my software development job for 3 months, and honestly, at first, it felt kind of awesome. No commute, no meetings, no deadlines, nowhere I had to be. So I spent about a month playing video games. A lot of video games, mainly Breath of the Wild. I even got a kitten, which in hindsight may or not have been my best decision. It cried a lot. And after about 3 weeks, I found it a great new home. Don't worry, the kitten's fine. Apparently, neither one of us was emotionally prepared for that relationship. But somewhere around the same time, I realized something. I was bored. The days had started blending together. I honestly couldn't have told you whether it was Tuesday or Saturday, and during COVID, I'm sure nobody else really could either. What it felt like freedom started to no longer feel freeing. I wasn't resting anymore. I was drifting. And I began asking myself a question. Is this really how I want to live my life? Today I want to talk about the seasons that stretch us. The uncomfortable seasons, the uncertain seasons, and even the painful seasons we would never have chosen for ourselves. John Maxwell writes, "Growth stops when you lose the tension from where you are to where you could be." I've come to believe that tension isn't always a problem we need to eliminate from our lives. Sometimes it's one of the primary ways God gets our attention and prepares us for what comes next. Because God often stretches you before he expands you. Before we get into it, if the Pursuit of Calling has been helping you grow, take a second to follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or subscribe on YouTube. That simple action helps you to stay connected, and it helps this message reach more Christian men who may need to hear it. Okay, back to it. That furlough was one of the first times I began to understand this. I'd gotten what so many of us think we want: unlimited free time and almost no responsibility. But comfort wasn't making me come alive. It was making me restless. So I started exploring. I began doing freelance web development. I wondered whether I could build something of my own. I started learning about entrepreneurship, finding clients, and what it actually takes to run a business. Freelance web development wasn't ultimately what I wanted to do, but it made me curious. It got me moving. It opened a door in my thinking that hadn't been there before, that hadn't been open before. And eventually that journey helped lead me toward coaching and toward the work I'm pursuing today. Looking back, I can see that God used my dissatisfaction to stretch my vision. I didn't receive a detailed plan, There was no divine business proposal sitting in my inbox. I just became uncomfortable with staying where I was. Sometimes growth begins that simple. Not with perfect clarity, but with tension. In Philippians chapter 3, Paul says that he hasn't already arrived or been made perfect. Instead, he presses on toward what Christ has called him to. Paul wasn't content to treat yesterday's growth as today's finish line. There was still a pressing forward. There was still more of Christ to know and more faithfulness to pursue. So here's the first question I want to ask. Where have I become so comfortable that I've started drifting? I want you to ask that question to yourself. Maybe you don't need to blow up your life to make a dramatic change in it. Maybe you simply need to become curious again. Read the book. Make that phone call. Try the new idea. Ask God what faithful action looks like in this season. And then take that one step. Some stretching seasons begin with boredom. Others begin with pain. A few years later, I found myself on the floor of my bedroom, curled into the fetal position, crying. Another doctor had just told me they didn't know what was wrong with me. My body was doing things that I couldn't control. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a solution. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew something was wrong. And the people I was turning to for answers didn't have them. I remember asking God, why me? Why is this happening? Why can't somebody tell me what's wrong? Why won't you take this away? Maybe you've had your own version of being on that floor. Maybe yours came after losing a job, hearing a diagnosis, watching a relationship fall apart, or seeing a future you had planned suddenly disappear. You keep asking for answers, but all you seem to hear is, we don't know. Eventually, I learned that what I was dealing with was muscular dystonia. I still pray for healing. But over time, I also began to see that God was doing something in me through this condition. I had spent much of my life relying on myself. Now I had to ask for help. I had to let other people into my struggle. I had to become more disciplined about my health and my habits. I had to depend on God when I couldn't force my body or my future to cooperate with my plans. My faith was stretched. My humility was stretched, and my discipline was stretched. I would never call this condition good. But I believe God has used it for my good and His glory. He has developed things in me and through me that comfort never could have developed on its own. Romans chapter 5 says that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. That doesn't mean we pretend suffering doesn't hurt. It means suffering doesn't get the final word. God can produce something in us, even in a season we would have never chosen. Some stretching seasons we choose. Some stretching seasons choose us. But even when you can't choose the season, you can choose how you respond within it. So the second question I want you to ask yourself is, what might God be developing in me through this season? It's okay to ask God to change your circumstances. I still do. But while you're asking, God, how do I get out of this? Also ask, God, who are you forming in me to become through it? God, who are you forming me to become through it? God doesn't only stretch us through circumstances. Sometimes He uses people who care about us enough to make us uncomfortable. Long before I left my job, almost a year before, I was talking with my friend Matt about our goals. I'd been thinking about becoming a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach. I had even saved the money to get the certification. This wasn't some vague dream I might pursue one day. I had the opportunity right in front of me. I just wasn't taking action. Matt told me his goals and then looked at me and said, "And you're going to do that Maxwell thing, right? I mean, if you're ever actually going to do it." Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate that, bud. The worst part is that he was right. I didn't need more information. I didn't need another month to think about it. I needed somebody to point out the gap between what I said I wanted and what I was actually willing to do. That comment stuck with me, and eventually I pulled that trigger and became certified. Matt's challenge was one step in a much longer journey that eventually led me to leave my job and pursue this calling full time. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron. Sometimes I can't say the word iron. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Sharpening creates friction. Sometimes the people God uses most in our lives are the people who won't help us protect our excuses. So the third question I want you to ask yourself is this: who is stretching me? Who asks you the questions you would rather avoid? Who sees what God placed in you and refuses to let you keep burying it? Who can tell you the truth without you immediately becoming defensive? If nobody in your life can challenge you, your comfort zone will always have that final vote. It will always keep you from pursuing your calling well. Earlier this year, I left my job. I knew I would doubt the decision sometimes. I knew there would be sleepless nights. I knew I was stepping into a level of uncertainty and responsibility I hadn't carried before. Before leaving, I thought entrepreneurship would mostly be about freedom. Turns out, it's mostly about making decisions. Lots and lots of decisions. Nobody's standing over me telling me what to do with my day. That sounds wonderful until you realize you are now responsible for deciding what matters most. Structuring your time, following through, putting yourself out there, and hearing no without treating it like a prophecy about your future. Leaving my job didn't make life easier. It stretched my discipline, my priorities, my tolerance for rejection, and my trust in God as my provider. But that was part of the point. I wanted to be stretched beyond my current capacity so that my capacity could grow. And through this season, my confidence has grown. Not confidence that I can control every outcome, but confidence in God's faithfulness in the man He created me to become. Looking back, I can see the pattern. COVID stretched my vision. Dystonia stretched my faith. Matt stretched my courage. Leaving my job stretched my capacity. And none of these seasons gave me the complete map. They simply gave me an opportunity to take the next faithful step. So take these 3 questions with you this week. Question number 1, where have I become so comfortable that I've started drifting? Question number 2, what might God be developing in me through this season? Question number 3, who is stretching me, and am I willing to listen? Write down your answers, then choose one action, not 10, 1. Growth doesn't begin when you finally understand everything. It begins when you respond faithfully to the tension that is already in front of you. If you know you want to grow, but you're not sure where to begin, I created a free resource to help you work through that. It's called the Grow on Purpose Workbook. It will help you take an honest look at where you are today. Identify where you believe God may be leading you and choose practical areas in which you can begin growing intentionally. You can download it for free using the link in the episode description. Don't just finish this episode inspired and then return to the same routine. Put your thoughts on paper and decide what your next faithful step will be. And if this episode helped you see your current season differently, would you help another man find it? Leave an honest review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or leave a comment on YouTube sharing one area where God is stretching you right now. Your review or comment may feel like a small thing, but it helps more men discover the show. And your story might be exactly the encouragement somebody else needs to take the next faithful step. I don't know what kind of stretching season you're in right now. Maybe God is stretching you. You may be stretching your faith, your discipline, your courage, your relationships, or your willingness to ask for help. Maybe you chose this season, or maybe it chose you. Don't waste the stretching. Don't waste the tension. The tension you feel between where you are and where you could be may not be evidence that God has abandoned you. It may be evidence that He's preparing you. God stretches you before He expands you. And the stretching you're resisting today may be preparing you to carry what He is calling you into tomorrow. Until next time, keep pursuing your calling. Keep pursuing the man God created you to be. Do it well.